Hi.
Hi, Martin. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Uh, it's pretty new for me to be here in this software. I'm not sure if you hear me through my microphone or through the microphone of my notebook, but as I recognize, you can at least understand me.
I can hear you, definitely. Loud and clear.
Okay,
So I don't
perfect.
know which mic you're using, but I do hear. Now it's
Okay,
quite a new tool actually. So I always start with a little intro of the tool.
cool. Yeah, pleasure to meet you here. I
Yes,
got
yes.
to the meeting or to this event through Ulrich.
Yeah. I spoke to
I think
Ulrich
we know each
yesterday.
other. Ah, okay, cool.
Yeah, so no, he was unable to attend, but he indeed said that you will join. So welcome, definitely.
Thank you.
Also, welcome to the other Martin, Martin Wolf, and to Meredith again. Always nice to see you. I just give a few more minutes so people can join, and then we'll start.
I also have to admit, I'm not sure how full the room gets or the audience, but I have to leave after 45 minutes. Sorry
Ah,
for this. I try to grasp as much as possible in this time.
very good. No, I think I had something like 18 people registering.
Okay.
So I guess there'll be a little bit less, of course, in the room. Um, and afterwards, I will share a recording. So if you want to see the second half, then you're welcome to.
Hello, also from my
Also,
side.
welcome, Vadim. Hi, nice to see you.
Hi.
Welcome and welcome, Diego. I'll just give people till 5 past the time to join. Yep.
Hi Roel, goedemiddag.
Goedemiddag, hey Diego, welkom.
Hey, hi, dank je. Dank je, dank je. Het lukte mij niet helemaal om in te loggen, eerlijk gezegd. Ik
Maar
ben
nu
er,
wel.
maar nu wel, ja, precies. Nee, maar de eerste keer bleef die hangen. Dus misschien hebben meer
Oké.
mensen er last van.
Sinds de vorige ronde tafel is er een update geweest. Dus het zou moeten zijn,
Oké.
waarschijnlijk moet je weer je Internet Explorer toegang geven dat hij alles toestaat.
Zoiets.
Maar ik kreeg net ook een melding op LinkedIn. Dus meerdere mensen zijn aan het. Hank has
Komen
a very
eraan.
strange error message.
No, that says he's looking for my EOS webcam utility.
Yeah. And
Which
you
is-
see it normally. I see it sort of
Let me see it.
mirror
I
view.
see it wrong too. Sorry, I'm switching to the proper webcam. Now you see.
Hey,
Good
Hank.
to see you. Sorry, I had to switch computers.
I see Eugene joined. Welcome again.
Eugene, cool.
Just waiting for
Very good.
James, also a very regular attendee, but he's facing some issues with the link apparently. So I just shared a new one. And then we'll
Yeah,
just get started.
my security guys have blocked your link.
Yeah.
I told them that's not nice.
Yeah, but that even happens with Zoom. So that's yeah.
It's okay. I will handle this tomorrow. Now I'm
Entering
on
the
my
corporate
private
IT
computer.
environment is always quite challenging as an outsider.
We'll handle this, no worries.
Great.
At least you can now see that this is where the coffee comes from.
That's very important. Well, I see Florian also joined, so
Yep.
welcome, Florian.
Huge excuse more for my late joining you, but because there was a workman coming in and I had to talk with him. Excuse me.
All fine, no worries. Always first 5 minutes of an online call are open for entering, I would say. So,
Good.
without further ado, maybe there will be some additional joiners, but I don't want to keep you waiting. Everybody that's already in. So, welcome again to this third roundtable event of this year. I am recording the session, so I hope you're okay with that. The goal of that is to share that with the people that attended, of course, so that they can watch the whole event if they miss something. Today we're going to talk about driving innovation through people, and that's a little bit of a heritage of our previous roundtable where we talked about the 4 P's of innovation, where the 4th P is people, and well, there was so much discussion going on about that last element that we all felt this is worth an entire session. So that's what I would like to talk about. I would like to start with a little movie after a short introduction. And then I think, as you expect from me by now, I have a poll which I would like you to complete, and then we'll have a little chat about the results of that poll. And in that sense, I try to structure the discussion a little bit. But as always, it's very open to bring up additional thoughts, questions. My main goal here is to connect you to each other so that there is more sharing amongst all these innovation-minded people. So, I want to start with a little introduction. Those who joined before have seen this before. My name is Roel de Vries. I have a wife and 2 daughters that you see here. And I live in the Netherlands. Live in the Netherlands. You see the blue dot. It's between Amsterdam and Haarlem. It's called Nieuwebrug, but I think people outside of the Netherlands don't know where that is. Anyway, it's quite close to Schiphol, so easy travels on that side. I'm actually in my 11th year within innovation management. Started in 2011, when I was still working for UPC, Dutch television provider. And well, still here, so I'm very much enjoying my life as innovation professional. As you see, I started at Liberty Global, so we had an online system live we called Spark. Maybe some of you have heard about that, where we collaborated and collected ideas from employees, 45,000 employees around the world in Virgin Media, Unity Media, Ziggo, maybe some people from Belgium, I don't think so, but otherwise Telenet, and even people in Southern America. I'm really focused on sort of providing our employees with the tools and the structures and the processes to innovate. So I expect that I can refer back sometimes to what we've been doing there. But it's also still a very a part of innovation that's sort of close to my heart. Obviously, processes, platforms, programs, strategies, all important. But I think enabling people is where you can make the biggest impact, especially if, well, in the beginning of my career, I was that lone wolf, and just 2 hands are not going to change the company, of course. Well, after my career there, I launched Riverstone Blue in 2017 to help other companies to, run innovation initiatives, engage their employees. and well, sort of level up their innovation activities. And we do that through 3 types or buckets of services. First one is Excite services. So you could say that the roundtable is part of that, or speaking at events, maybe some more visionary presentations. Then enablement service, which is trainings, workshops, directly towards employees, but also helping innovation teams to create their own trainings. Just last week, I've been helping a company in Germany to set up a kickbox like here. I will definitely get back to that later on. And finally, executing services. So really involving us in your innovation efforts to develop prototypes, to maybe even run an innovation campaign for you as an innovation manager. And the latest addition to our service portfolio is actually building an innovation lab. I haven't shared a lot about that yet, but we will do the final delivery coming Friday. So as from then, we will definitely be sharing more on that line as well. So would like to go back to the introduction of today. Would like to talk about people-driven innovation, really looking at the people that we want to engage in innovation. And I want to say that literally we already had this event in January where we spoke about the personality of the innovation manager. And the innovation manager and his or her counterparts are super important. But today I would really like to look at the audience. So the people that you want to engage in innovation, that you want ideas from, want support on prototyping, maybe need to involve later in the process to implement the creative thoughts. So really the participating crowd I want to look at. And to inspire you a bit, I have a little movie. It's the summary movie of the book Drive by Daniel Pink. I'm aware it's quite a lengthy movie. It's 10 minutes, but I would like to showcase it. It's a fun movie, and I really think it gives us quite some sort of hooks to come back on during the rest of this roundtable today. So I will show it. And by the way, this movie, the link to this movie is also available in the resource section. So a little bit different than last time due to an update, but on the right bottom side, you see 4 icons, I guess, where you can chat, where you can leave your questions, but also where you can access the resource section, where several links are uploaded, amongst which the video link, and also notes section, and you can actually share or write notes in that section, and those notes will be emailed to you after the session automatically. You can also do it in a separate system, of course. I'm not going to leave it longer. I'm just going to start the movie, so enjoy, and we'll be back in sort of 10 minutes.
Our motivations are unbelievably interesting. I mean, I find I've been working on this for a few years, and I just find the topic still so amazingly engaging and interesting. So I want to tell you about that. The science is really... Our motivations are unbelievably interesting. I find I've been working on this for a few years. Not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think. There's a whole set of unbelievably interesting studies. I want to give you 2 that call into question this idea that if you reward something, you get more of the behavior you want. If you punish something, you get less of it. So let's go from London to the mean streets of Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the northeastern part of the United States. And let's talk about a study done at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Here's what they did. They took a whole group of students, and they gave them a set of challenges. Things like memorizing strings of digits, solving word puzzles, other kinds of spatial puzzles, even physical tasks like throwing a ball through a hoop. Okay, they gave them these challenges, and they said to incentivize their performance, they gave them 3 levels of rewards. Okay, So if you did pretty well, you got a small monetary reward. If you did medium well, you got a medium monetary reward. And if you did really well, if you were one of the top performers, you got a large cash prize, okay? We've seen this movie before. This is essentially a typical motivation scheme within organizations, right? We reward the very top performers, we ignore the low performers, and the other folks kind of in the middle, okay, you get a little bit. So what happens? They do the test, they have these incentives, here's what they found out. One, as long as the task involved only mechanical skill, bonuses worked as they would be expected. The higher the pay, the better their performance. Okay, that makes sense. But here's what happens. But once the task called for even rudimentary cognitive skill, a larger reward led to poorer performance. Now, this is strange, right? A larger reward led to poorer performance? How can that possibly be? Now, what's interesting about this is that these folks here who did this are all economists, two at MIT, one at the University of Chicago, one at Carnegie Mellon, okay, the top tier of the economics profession. And they're reaching this conclusion that seems contrary to what a lot of us learned in economics, which is that the higher the reward, the better their performance. And they're saying that once you get above rudimentary cognitive skill, it's the other way around. Which seems like this kind of, the idea that these rewards don't work that way seems vaguely left-wing and socialist, doesn't it? It's kind of this kind of weird socialist conspiracy. For those of you who have those conspiracy theories, I want to point out the notoriously left-wing socialist group that financed the research, the Federal Reserve Bank. So this is the mainstream of the mainstream coming to a conclusion that's quite surprising, seems to defy the laws of behavioral physics. So this is strange. It's strange finding. So what do? They say, this is freaky. Let's go test it somewhere else. Maybe that $50 or $60 prize isn't sufficiently motivating for an MIT student, right? So let's go to a place where $50 is actually more significant relatively, right? So let's take the experiment. We're going to go to Madurai, India, rural India, where $50, $60, whatever the number was, is actually a significant sum of money. So they replicated the experiment in India roughly as follows. Small rewards, salary, small performance, low performance, 2-week salary, medium performance, about a month's salary, high performance, about 2 months' salary. Okay, so those are real good incentives. Okay, so you're going to get a different result here. Well, what happened, though, was that the people offered the medium reward did no better than the people offered the small reward. But this time around, the people offered the top reward. They did worst of all. Higher incentives led to worse performance. What's interesting about this is that it actually isn't all that anomalous. This has been replicated over and over and over again by psychologists, by some extent by sociologists, and by economists, over and over and over again. For simple, straightforward tasks, those kinds of incentives, if you do this, then you get that, they're great. For tasks that are algorithmic, set of rules where you have to just follow along and get a right answer, if-then rewards, carrots and sticks, outstanding. But when the task gets more complicated, when it requires some conceptual creative thinking, those kinds of motivators demonstrably don't work. In fact, money is a motivator at work, but in a slightly strange way. If you don't pay people enough, they won't be motivated. What's curious about, there's another paradox here, which is that the best use of money as a motivator is to pay people enough to take the issue of money off the table. Pay people enough so that they're not thinking about money and they're thinking about the work. Now, once you do that, it turns out there are 3 factors that the science shows lead to better performance, not to mention personal satisfaction. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy is our desire to be self-directed, to direct our own lives. Now, in many ways, traditional notions of management run afoul of that. Management is great if you want compliance, but if you want engagement, which is what we want in the workforce today as people are doing more complicated, sophisticated things, self-direction is better. Let me give you some examples of this, of almost radical forms of self-direction in the workplace that lead to good results. Let's start with this company right here, Atlassian, an Australian company. It's a software company, and they do something really cool. Once a quarter on a Thursday afternoon, they say to their developers, for the next 24 hours, you can work on anything you want. You can work on it the way you want. You can work on it with whomever you want. All we ask is that you show the results to the company at the end of those 24 hours in this fun kind of meeting, not a star chamber session, but this fun meeting with beer and cake and fun and other things like that. It turns out that one day, of pure undiluted autonomy has led to a whole array of fixes for existing software, a whole array of ideas for new products that otherwise had never emerged. One day. Now, this is not an if-then incentive. This is not the sort of thing that I would have done 3 years ago before I knew this research. I would have said, you want people to be creative and innovative? Give them a freaking innovation bonus. If you can do something cool, I'll give you $2,500. They're not doing this at all. They're essentially saying, you probably want to do something interesting. Let me just get out of your way. One day of autonomy produces things that had never emerged. Right, let's talk about mastery. Mastery is our urge to get better at stuff. We like to get better at stuff. This is why people play musical instruments on the weekend. You got all these people who are acting in ways that seem irrational economically. They play musical instruments on weekends. Why? It's not going to get them a mate. It's not going to make them any money. Why are they doing it? Because it's fun, because you get better at it, and that's satisfying. Go back in time a little bit. I imagine this if I went to my first economics professor, a woman named Mary Alice Schulman, and I went to her in 1983 and said, Professor Schulman, can I talk to you after class for a moment? Yeah. I got this inkling. I got this idea for a business model. I just want to run it past you. Here's how it would work. You get a bunch of people around the world who are doing highly skilled work, willing to do it for free, and volunteer their time, 20, sometimes 30 hours a week. Okay, she's looking at you somewhat skeptically there. Oh, but I'm not done. And then what they create, they give it away rather than sell it. It's going to be huge. I mean, she truly would have thought I was insane. Okay, it seemed to fly in the face of so many things. But what do you have? You have Linux powering 1 out of 4 corporate servers in Fortune 500 companies, Apache powering more than the majority of web servers, Wikipedia. What's going on? Why are people doing this? Why are these people, many of whom are technically sophisticated, highly skilled people who have jobs? Okay, they have jobs. They're working at jobs for pay, doing sophisticated technological work, and yet during their limited discretionary time, they do equally, if not more, technically sophisticated work, not for their employer, but for someone else for free. That's a strange economic behavior. Economists who look into it, why are they doing this? It's overwhelmingly clear. Challenge and mastery, along with making a contribution. That's it. What you see more and more is a rise of what you might call the purpose motive, is that more and more organizations want to have some kind of transcendent purpose, partly because it makes coming to work better, partly because that's the way to get better talent. And what we're seeing now is, in some ways, when the profit motive becomes unmoored from the purpose motive, bad things happen. Bad things ethically sometimes, but also bad things just like not good stuff, like crappy products, like lame services, like uninspiring places to work. That when the profit motive is paramount, or when it becomes completely unhitched from the purpose motive, it's just, people don't do great things. More and more organizations are realizing this and sort of disturbing the categories between what's profit and what's purpose. And I think that actually heralds something interesting. And I think that the organizations that are flourishing, whether they're profit, for profit, or somewhere in between, are animated by this purpose model. Let me give you a couple of examples. Here's the founder of Skype. He says, our goal is to be disruptive, but in the cause of making the world a better place. Pretty good purpose. Here's Steve Jobs. I want to put a ding in the universe. All right? That's the kind of thing that might get you up in the morning and racing to go to work. So I think that, that we are purpose maximizers, not only profit maximizers. I think the science shows that we care about mastery very, very deeply. And the science shows that we want to be self-directed. And I think that the big takeaway here is that if we start treating people like people and not assuming that they're simply horses, slower, smaller, better smelling horses, if we get past this kind of ideology of carrots and sticks and look at the science, I think we can actually build organizations and work lives that make us better off. But I also think they have the promise to make our world just a little bit better.
Okay, sorry. Thanks, Florian. Any recognition? Were there people that knew the theory from Dan Pink already? We're familiar with it? No? Okay. Well, Florian, very good. I've seen this movie a lot of times already, but I keep getting back to it because I think it's very well. It's a fun movie to watch. But that whole theory of autonomy, mastery, and purpose, I think it all fits in very well. I think you all agree with me that innovation is not that factory work, that rudimentary work that he was talking about. That does get better when you get a higher pay. But here it's actually that creative task that he was talking about, and it seems to be a bit more difficult there to say, hey, how are we going to motivate these people? So, we're here now in the room with all people working in innovation or working with innovators, maybe doing research on innovation. So again, I would like to look at the various aspects of motivation that drive people to participate in innovation. And the first section that I want to look at is intrinsic motivation. So I have a little poll, 3 questions, where I would like to get your opinion about what intrinsic factors do you feel drive innovation. Afterwards, of course, we'll discuss the results. So the poll is loading. You can answer both questions 1 and 2. Multiple answers are possible, and when you are done, please click submit. And so if you feel, like Daniel Pink, that it's a combination of autonomy, mastery, and purpose, you can just go ahead and tick all 3 boxes. Mm-hmm. 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 Seven have completed. Twenty seconds. Okay, I'll make a quick screenshot for now and put that into the chat. So I see by far the most of you have selected purpose as the element of Daniel Pink's theory that drives motivation most. Anybody who would like to give a little bit of explanation behind that? And you know me, I will give turns if nobody volunteers.
I have something maybe that could add to this outcome.
Yes, Diego.
Yeah, maybe it has to do with something because we all work in these large environments and it's not very visible anymore. Like the contribution where you add value as a person to the bigger, to the larger whole. And maybe when it comes to purpose, like why you're doing things, really, really is the fundament of things, and maybe therefore people like to think more of abstract challenges, and they really explore their whys, and maybe that's where it comes from.
Yeah, and is that purpose sort of, should that be a purpose that's close to your heart, or is that, can it also be like, okay, this is apparently the purpose of the company, I'm okay with that as long as I know, or should it be, I saw somebody saying to solve social problems, so there's apparently a specific purpose. What's your view on that? Can it also be, hey, we want to, I don't know, increase our revenue with 20%? Is that a purpose that drives you?
I would say it is a little bit more to people close to people's hearts, where where they find a solution or something like, where they see a solution.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's from my own experience. Yeah.
No, very good. Anybody else? Eugene, I think. I think you have to unmute yourself.
Can it unmute me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can it unmute?
Okay. Eugene is reconnect.
All right. Can you hear me? All right. So, sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. Let me come back for a second for this video, because with all due respect to this study from MIT, they work with kind of artificial groups, but there are field data, and this field data was collected in 2007, so 15 years ago, on Innocentive, and many of you may have heard about Innocentive. And what I like about this kind of particular model, if you want, because there is already factor of self-selection already factored in, because people who come to solve crowdsourcing challenges, they already self-selected themselves. They already kind of intrinsically motivated. And there was actually very, very deep, very kind of very scientific and statistically sound survey that ask people for motivation. And Innocentive is actually price-based model, so people get money. And to me, so it's not kind of intrinsic, it's extrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
People split actually quite evenly. So half of them were saying that they're for money, half of them were saying for something else. And it actually was me who wrote about this social problem to solve, because I worked for Innocentive, and I was pleasantly surprised that when we had a challenge from non-profit organization for doing something kind of social value, that people were willing to work for this challenge for much lower money than they would ask from industrial commercial clients. And I kind of it's almost like an anecdote, is that people would request, Innocentive solvers would request the highest awards from pharmaceutical companies, which are really hated everywhere in the world. And they totally refuse to work for tobacco companies, but work for non-profits. So again, it's normal mix for every people, half and half.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. And is that? But do you recognize? I think you do a lot of researches, right? Yourself as well. See how things are going at companies. Do you think that is still going on? That is still relevant? Or is there a sort of, do people sort of see the sort of the maybe more the social effects? Is that becoming more and more a driver? Or do you see that it sort of stays that 50-50?
To be honest, I don't know. And unfortunately, again, and that's the problem. It's almost niche research, and it was a very thorough study from Harvard Business School by Karim Lahani, and he's kind of, very, very known expert in open innovation. I'm not sure that anyone has repeated the same experiment. I honestly don't know whether incentive makes this kind of service regular.
Yeah,
I doubt that. But hey, they're still in business, right?
Indeed. And maybe another question, because you are in the US based, right?
Right.
Do you think that is that percentual the distribution between sort of going for money or going for good? I would say, is that different in the US versus Europe versus Asia?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because in 2007, incentive solos were kind of half from United States, 1/3 from Europe, and 1/3 the rest of the world. It was very difficult to say because no one knew who participated.
Yeah.
As you know, for any community, you have only 20-30% who actively participate.
Yeah.
So I suspect that it was mostly, I would say, two-thirds of Americans to 1/3 of Europeans. To which extent it was different, I don't know.
Okay, because.
But I doubt that it was a dramatic difference. I think that at certain level of professional grade and education, these differences become less important.
Okay, thanks. Meredith, if you're still there. Oh no, Henk, is it true that, do I remember right, that Meredith was based in the US?
Yes, Meredith just texted me that she had to drop out due to technical difficulties.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was leaning over, because I was texting, okay, if something cool happens, I will let you know afterwards. So yes, Meredith is based in the US, and we are both part of an international innovation team.
Yeah, and do you see different sort of motivational factors for those in the US versus those in Europe?
No.
No?
To put it very plain and simple.
Yeah. That's simple. That's good.
I can totally go with Eugene to say, from a certain level on, people seem not to mind terribly about money. As they said in the video, as soon as you put the money question off the table, then it doesn't work as a motivator any longer. And also, what Eugene said, it's a pre-selected group. So if you already feel innovative, this kind of, okay, maybe I'm saying this in this group. I have the feeling that being innovative to a very large extent involves a lot of people who are intrinsically motivated by purpose.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of mindset that seems to go with being innovative. And if you look down at question 2, nobody said that competition is an intrinsic motivator.
It's very interesting that you bring that up, because that was indeed what I was going to ask you next. I do see.
So I hate to hijack the discussion, but it's exactly what Henk is saying, is that about competition and collaboration. The only real difference, tangible kind of, manifested difference I saw between Europeans and Americans is actually in internal competition, in internal challenges.
Yeah.
In terms of our work, because Americans like this, winner takes it all approach. So for American companies, it was highly usual to award one award or two. So for one sold.
Yeah.
And then when we try to apply the same system to European companies, we started to receive complaints that Europeans actually don't like that.
Yeah.
They value more collaborative approach, so they value more kind of team awards. So
Yeah.
they were less comfortable with one winner. They wanted a team to win. So which was actually quite easy to adjust, and I didn't find it surprising, kind of knowing both sides of the ocean. But that's the only one difference I know of in terms of incentive motivation between between two sides of the pond.
Yeah. No, and I think that was indeed what I wanted to address with Henk, because that's also what I've been seeing indeed, where maybe the US companies are indeed more focused on trying to challenge that, where, well, I've seen that in Europe actually counter effect on creating that competition, where sometimes people, don't even want to collaborate anymore because they feel then they're just helping somebody to win, and they want to win themselves. So no, I think that's a very valid point, and I'm happy that you acknowledge that as well. Florian, you raised.
Yeah, I just would have a question to Evgen Ivanov, because you said half-half, so intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, money-based motivation. For me would be interesting to how long the ones who would get a bonus for being more innovative or whatever, how long, in your experience, are those people really motivated as long as they get a certain payment? Is it 1 day? Is it 1 month? Probably not 1 year, but what came out in your research in this direction?
Yeah, well, again, this was one study, and this study was actually serving people who do this in a sense external challenges. That they were by definition individuals, not connected to each other. So people who would spend their own time to solve quite serious challenges. And again, incentive challenges is a very serious problem. So you would spend something between few weeks or maybe a couple of months doing that. So sometimes actually doing certain research. So people obviously expect it to be at least somehow compensated. And especially because in this particular case, they were exchanging cash bonuses prices for intellectual property, which is which is normal business transaction. So this factor saying that people were half motivated by money, were greedy. I wouldn't say that, because, well, we all draw on our salaries, and no one say, well, we do that because we are greedy, right? Well, that is necessity. But I would emphasize what I said at the beginning, that, and yet even people who work for money were willing to take much less if they felt that that was they were doing good cause. And so participation in this high profile social challenges was absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, people would flock to these challenges. Participation was huge, and people again were willing to take much less money if they felt that they was doing what was for good cause.
Yeah. Cool. No, I think that's
so
great.
again, so there is no point to say 50%, 50, 60, 40, whatever. Both components are important.
Yeah. No, thanks, Eugene. And I think you're making a valid point. probably companies don't want to reduce the wages, but you know, they're asking, especially in these innovation activities, of course, to do something on top of their normal day-to-day job. And I guess if that then fits into their purpose and their ambitions, that they're able to take that extra step more easily. Just looking at the poll, I see that somebody said that a personal problem or pain could be an intrinsic driver to innovate. Not sure if the one who added that is still available, but would like to hear a little bit of background on that one. No, not today. Then we're gonna move on to the next poll. We're gonna look at the extrinsic factors, of course, now. And again, I have a little poll. Which elements you think will drive people to innovate? So we are now more looking at that money side, I would say. Again, multiple answers are possible, and you can leave another answer by text in question 2. Okay, let's. I'll put the results so far in the chat. Maybe if somebody is still doing it, we can complete. Well, I see quite a fair spread over the various items choices, where praise is highly the most one. So I think this personal recognition, putting people on the podium and showing that what they did, recognition. Anybody want to add something on that part? Guess it's also very recognizable for everybody working here. What I find interesting, so 2 people talked about learning, the learning element in innovation, by learning yourself or by teaching others. Who would like to contribute a little bit on that? Florian, maybe you are laughing, I see.
Yeah, I wrote to teach others about that what you innovated, because I think when somebody really developed or prepared or whatever, build up something new, something which is helpful for the company, which is helpful for others, which is whatever. I think you really can be proud of yourself. Of course, you get a certain praise, but you can be proud of you of yourself, and really to bring out your special knowledge or additional knowledge to the others, and this way you can show them what was special, and to motivate them to do also something which helps the company, or which is what is also written, better living, or what in this direction. As soon as you can bring in what you really did, some others can also be motivated doing this. That's why I think is teaching or learning, this helps everybody.
So are you also saying that by people showing sort of what they did in innovation, that will then be another sort of extrinsic motivational factor for others again to participate? Yeah,
of course.
Cool.
And also certain intrinsic motivation, even for some others. This or that person was capable of doing this, but I'm also strong. I'm also capable. Why not trying it on my own? And this gives a certain positive impact into a company, and forward thinking, and not thinking what was better in the past.
Yeah.
When really it's future oriented.
And do you then also think that it's because of sort of that it's shown that it's actually, that it's not some blah blah around innovation, but that they actually went through the whole process and actually got their idea sort of realized into a real innovation?
Of course, everything what you can teach or on the other side learn is something which was finished or almost finished, or it was finished at a certain stadium, and this is something which you can show. And we all know, when you talk about innovation, as your question also pointed it out, it's a lot really talking about something, but at the end you have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think for each company it can be very positive when you can show a result.
Yeah.
And this is motivation. This is also a confirmation that it was possible. It is also for all those who were very critical at the beginning. You can say, yes, we managed it.
Yeah.
So it's only positive, even if you have to say, yes, we came to this result, and we have to say this or that does not function. Even this is a result which you can bring in.
Absolutely.
And if it functions, if it's very successful on the market, then it's of course much better. But even if it's not successful, it's a result which and you also can show it's possible to fail. It's acceptable to fail.
Yeah. No.
This is very important in innovation management. This openness, this curiosity, whatever it was written before, and this gives a certain communication.
Yeah. No, but I totally agree, and I would actually like to emphasize that if you are able as an employee or as a person to identify that an idea is not so good, whether that's due to that there's no customer interest or there's no technical feasibility, and you can identify that before the company is investing millions, I would say that's a win. Definitely. Maybe not for the idea, but it's definitely a personal win. No, I totally agree. And I think that's also a bit what they try to do with that whole fail fast, which is sometimes, I think, a bit scary terminology for companies. But I've seen it in various companies where where innovation efforts were launched in companies that were managed very specifically and the overall mantra was, we do everything perfect. Yeah, and then you all of a sudden ask them to come up with ideas that might not work. Yeah, sometimes that requested actually additional sort of guidance to get people in. And that's also what I liked about your answer, that it sort of showcases that also that, well, maybe not so normal and not so business as usual work might be easier to participate in if you have seen colleagues that actually did it in a successful way. Because the one that added the learning element, doing something different than business as usual, because that, I think, well, in my example that I just gave, I doing something different as usual in companies could also be quite scary. So I would like to get some little bit of background if that person is okay to do that. Diego, I guess. We cannot hear you.
Hello?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. Sorry. No, like what we do with what we do within Liberty is we also provide trainings to our employees. So we train them to go through the different stages of of the lean startup methodology, design thinking principles, and we get so much like positive response in terms of like that they really like the creative part of their work, to think in a different way, and it inspires them to look different at their business as usual as well. And that is actually what generates why I mentioned it, because they highly value the learning element of going through these iterate cycles.
Yeah. Okay. And do you see differences in sort of types of employees? Is maybe a marketing employee easier to do something different than a legal person? I'm just giving examples.
Yeah, exactly. Now, of course, you can imagine that if somebody is in legal, which is when the business as usual is highly protective and looking for why something doesn't work, is something whole different than looking from a creative. Looking through creative glasses, but it's also like a muscle. So every time, like if we run those sessions at the beginning, there are always people that feel more comfortable with it, and people that do not. But at the end, everybody feels energetic, and everybody feels like, whoa, we all did it together. We really experienced something, learned something new for myself, and that creative self-esteem is I think that is very valuable within companies, because that is actually the drop of oil you want to spread. The creative self-esteem of people.
And do you see that people who sort of build up that muscle or that self-esteem, that they return more often into various efforts that you are doing at Liberty?
Yes, we do have some challenges when it comes to creating our advocacy network, because of people that leave, and you have to stay on top of it to have an active network. But as soon as you have an active network, people the same people come back for more, because they're involved. They like what they've learned. They would like some more practice, some more experience, some more cases. So they're really the experience really triggered them to come back for more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. You recognize that, Henk?
Yes. And what I also recognize is that there is a kind of sifting through people. So we have had a lot of innovation campaigns in the company, and there's a number of people that kind of exchange or drop in and drop out of these, I would say, events and groups. And there's a small core of people that is there for a longer time. And these are some really highly creative people, highly innovative people, highly motivated people that also have the correct environment in their work and in their life where they can be innovative. So, but they always have fresh ideas, new challenges, view things from a different angle. And then you have other people, which is totally fine, that have one or two creative moments.
Yeah.
They participate in one or two challenges, and then they drop out and make room for other people. Drop out, I mean, on their own accord, because they say, oh, this time I have no idea how to solve this challenge. And that's something that I find really interesting.
And do they then, when you do have a topic that still sort of aligns to that initial topic, do they then return? Or is it then very difficult if you sort of did a few different efforts on a topic that is maybe less inspiring to them? Is it then difficult to get them back, or?
It gets more and more difficult to becomes more and more difficult to get them back the longer the last successful challenge was ago.
Yeah.
So it's always a lot of communication. I see Diego nodding his head off.
Yeah.
You know the trouble, huh?
Yeah, that's
it's really have to grab momentum, right? When people are all excited and everybody goes in the same slipstream.
Yeah, but your analogy, Diego. So you said it's like a muscle, but if you don't go to the gym, then after a while that muscle also disappears, right? Even though you build it up previously. Quite like that. Cool. Any further? Sorry, Florian, you have a question. Yes, go ahead.
In that case, I not only write the question, I actually ask both Henk and Diego, what are you doing to get them back? Because you said it's when they really went out of the creative sessions and so on, and they think, no, they are not that creative anymore, and you think, no, they should join again. What are you doing then? Because with extrinsic motivation or with bonus, I think this can't be the solution. You really must be something intrinsic, but what experience have you done there?
With intrinsic motivation, it's okay, Diego, if I start?
Go ahead.
Okay. So what I personally do is, if I see a challenge and I am missing some of my experts there, so I don't see them showing up, I talk to them. I walk up to them and kind of, Florian, you were very active in that greenhouse challenge, and this one that looks exactly the same. And I remember you had awesome ideas. Wouldn't you like to take part again? Yeah, so kind of, it's communication, remembering communication, and triggering intrinsic motivation, the feeling of, hey, I did something cool and I had fun, and people remember. That's what I try to do.
So personal communication, that's the trick.
I would say intrinsic motivation, and what I can do is personal communication.
Yeah. No, but you rather take the additional effort to step by than send an email, which you probably also do.
Because somebody already sent out the email for the general challenge.
Yeah.
I can assume everybody read it. I can assume that if I send you another email about the same topic, that you're either not going to read that one too, or that you're as not motivated as before.
Cool. Is that in line with what you are doing, Diego?
Yeah, what we are doing as a team is it comes down to the same, like communication. But what we do, like after an idea is selected for implementation or concept, there follows a whole period developing. So during this whole period, you still have contact with that person, and you have a nice chat with him or her, and that's how we as a team, how we follow up on the implementation or conceptualization status. But besides that, we also what we also do is organize a yearly award ceremony to award the most people who contribute the most in terms of innovation, who are very active on our platform. Like people that really stood out, and then for the reasons. That is what we do. And what we also do is we're now going to engage our network in a different way, and that is because our company has if you look at our internal communications, it's very, very top down. And we said, no, we want to tell people, to tell our enthusiasts the real story. So we actually want to switch that by the word we call it a newsletter, but of course it's it doesn't sound that maybe not that not that sparkling, but with our newsletter we tend to share the other story, like from the people who did the work, with all the pains and of course some successes to share, but also mostly the pains that it brought, and at the end what they've learned from their projects, and to inspire.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe coming back to Florian's point, also interested to see what the others think here. How does sort of implementing someone's idea or someone's proposal, or maybe not implementing someone's proposal, affect the motivation to stay involved? And if there's anything in theory, Gina would love to hear that as well. Bye, Diego. So Henk, do you see that if you don't follow up someone's idea that that their motivation goes down, or if you do implement something that you have a super enthusiastic innovator?
Yeah, I mean, without further communication care, that's exactly what happens. If you have an idea and we implement it, people are in general happier and more motivated than if we have an idea from somebody and we don't implement it. What we do to mitigate this is communication again, and this training of failure or fail early. So we try to brand market as a non-failure, as a success. Also, it's kind of, I don't know, you have an idea and for some reason it fails at some point. We, in our group, we really make it our standard procedure to say, okay, what did we learn out of it? What was the cool stuff we learned from it? And in our core group, that's fine. Let's say with our satellite innovators that only touch with us now and then, it is more difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. And in your first line, you said something about also communicated when we don't continue or something. So communicating that you don't continue is better than not communicating at all. Is that a fair conclusion?
Yes, because so the point is, I mean, I always try to put myself into the shoes of the other person. So I have a great idea, I come to you, I tell you how cool my idea is, and I'm totally motivated, because otherwise I wouldn't come to you. Then you say something, and then you don't implement it, and then nothing comes back. So that demotivates you. And then I think about, what before it comes back to me and tells me, okay, so if you communicate with me and explain to me why you can't do it in an interactive way, then I'm more motivated. So that's what we do, or that's what we try to do.
Thanks. Eugene, is there anything here that you have seen, maybe more looking at it from a higher level, how that sort of that follow-up communication impacts motivation?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've been having terrible connection for the past few minutes, so if I miss something. Okay, well, there are only 4 of us. I can make this kind of, admission, almost secret one. I'm not a people's person. I'm a process person. So when I see kind of, any human problem, I try to find a process to fix it. And in terms of motivation, I think that, and Royal, you and Hank, you mentioned this kind of, Diego. So this kind of gym analogy is that, and this is one of the problem I see in terms of motivation participation, is that when innovation programs and projects are running by as campaigns, like there are companies that love to do this. When one hackathon per year, a lot of money, attention.
I'm
afraid. And then nothing, the silence for the rest of the year. That's actually very bad. You don't go into gym, once in a week for, you do it kind of every day, 30 minutes. And the same, you train in innovation muscles of your company, not by huge exercise, not by marathons, but I jog it every day. That's one thing. The second thing is that I think that, again, I understand the value of this kind of idea generation approach, which is the most usual. But again, I'm of this incentive school of thought.
I think we're losing you again, Eugene.
It's too bad. He's saying so cool.
And I like the problem solving. And why I like it, one major reason is that, when you generate ideas, it's, in my view and my experience, it's difficult to explain to a person whose idea was not selected, why it was not selected. Because ideas are already kind of more vague. However, if people are presented with a problem as with requirements for successful solution, it's much easier to say, okay, well, we didn't select your solution because you didn't meet this or that requirement.
Yes.
And people actually take it better because, that's something that, okay, well, next time I'll do better.
Yeah.
And from this point of view, I think it's much more kind of, productive and motivating, especially for a company at less mature stage of innovation, to use this problem-solving approach rather than this idea generating approach, especially once a year. That is kind of, my process-oriented take on motivation problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, well, I did miss a few lines, I'm afraid, but I feel that I agree. You said at a certain moment, you said it's more difficult or it's sometimes very difficult to explain to an employee why his or her idea is not selected. And I can agree to you, if you say, hey, this is the goal that we want to reach, and sorry, your goal doesn't reach that. The other way would be to have the employee validate his or her own idea and try to see if they can identify, well, should we continue or not themselves. Would that make it more easy to sort of kill ideas?
Yeah, well, in the reality of a corporation, well, you unfortunately have to make selections pretty early in the process. So even if you like, to engage 10 people, you cannot launch 10 projects kind of, to keep these people motivated. It doesn't work in a corporation. So that's unfortunate, but that's the reality of life.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean,
thanks, Florian. Anything to add?
yeah, I would like to pick up at Eugene's point. This is also a good point to engage teams then, so to put people together in teams, because then we can improve on each other's ideas. And then even if my original idea is not selected, it's kind of so, hey, but I have contributed to Eugene's idea,
Yeah.
and then it's kind of at least partly mine, and you can buy into it and say, yes, of course, Eugene, your idea is much better. Let's follow up this idea, or solution is even better, to say, okay, we're looking for a solution to a problem. And then, yeah, it's a super cool idea.
Yeah, yeah.
So to just not talk about ideas, talk about solutions.
But that is in a way what you're doing, right? If you are running campaigns
I totally
around
agree,
issue.
but unfortunately, it requires kind of. So, but it requires kind of, maturity and sophistication of innovation team and the whole organization that unfortunately not very many organizations have.
Yeah.
No.
For now. And that's the problem, yes. Again, I know that, well, Royal demonstrated us, all of us, that this kind of, idea generation process can be very successful. But how many organizations like his Liberty Global, yeah. I took always confuse it with Liberty Mutual, which is kind of financial company here. Yes,
well.
and it worked there, but we spoke about that many years ago, that the first approach, the first phase of that, which was kind of pure idea generation, it actually didn't work.
No,
you have to kind of introduce this kind of frame rails, and that requires maturity of the innovation process in any given organization.
No,
and not all of them at this point, unfortunately.
No, and
We've
you're
been
right.
talking about that for 20 years. Not well. Things change, but not as fast as we would like.
No, and I can only emphasize this. I also started off with this sort of digital idea box where we just said, "Hey, do you have an idea? Share it with us." And yes, initially there was even excitement around that. But yeah, then sometimes also good ideas are not sort of interesting for a company at that moment in time. So, yes, it could be a good idea, but we were just not looking for a museum or whatever. Where now we say, or well, where at later stages we just said, hey, we need to save 10% in this process, or we want to, increase NPS with 10 points on this element. Yeah, and that resulted in, I think, way better ideas, but also way better killing reasons, to say it like that, because we could just say, yeah, but sorry, a museum is not gonna save time in this process, so sorry, I'm gonna leave that one there. Yeah. We, by the way, sorry, I'm gonna give you the word. We always, when we canceled ideas, and I still advise it, by the way, to innovation teams, to still say, hey, our opinion, when we look at your idea, we don't think this is an answer to the problem we stated. If you feel different, let us know. So that you still sort of leave it in the hands of that MPE to make a final, yes, you're right, let's kill it for now. Florian.
I think also the point which Henk said before, to join them, to have also the positive feeling of the collaboration and so on. This is really very, very positive. Great. I had once a very negative feeling with a colleague. He brought up quite an interesting idea, and we evaluated it, and at the end we had to say no. The same what the rule said before. And then I explained to him why we can't go on with this idea. 2 weeks later, he came again with the original idea divided into 2 parts, and so with 2 new ideas. And then I said, but the first idea was better, and now you are coming with 2 separates. This is at the end the same, the goal which you want to have, but it's even worse, or not that good as that. good. Then of course I will register and when we will evaluate it. Again, we said, no, we can't go on. And then he came again, yeah, but why not, and so on, and the whole arguing the all the time. I said, good, I go to a fair next time, and I will talk with this and that company, and then I will check this again. I had again a half an hour talk to someone, and at the end I came back and then explained again why we can't go on. And then he said me, I asked him, would you also invest this and that amount if this money would be your money? And then the answer was, this is not important. I want to be a project leader in the product development.
Yeah.
And then I said, aha, this is a personal goal and not a company goal which you want to fulfill. And then it's not even important if it's a good idea or a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's worse anyway.
Yeah.
And this is I have never forgotten this anymore, and it's so bad. And the way you were talking before was very positive. This is really great if you, and also with Vision, if you can go together forward. And even if it's a no, but it's still a forward going. And the other thing is just, if it's good for me, then I'm doing it. And if it's not good for me, then I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Florian, I have to admit that I just left out that part that you just explained.
Good. Thank you.
So thanks for bringing that one up. Yes, there are these people that participate in these innovation, whatever we call it, whatever we do, problem-solving thingies for pure competitional reasons.
Yeah.
And Meredith and I were just chatting on the side when we did the first poll for it, about when nobody selected competition as an intrinsic motivator. We had the same name in mind who would definitely see it as a competition.
Good.
We
Yeah.
have these people, and they are tough to deal with.
Yeah. Your comment, Henk, made me think of Philips. I'm not sure if you know the company. It's a lighting company in the Netherlands.
Well, the light that you
Yeah.
see here
Yeah.
comes from Philips.
They do now hospital equipment, by the way. The lighting division has spun off. And that happened already quite a while ago when I started as an innovation manager. So they were running this ideation effort as well, where employees could submit their ideas. And at a certain moment, they did a research to investigate which employee is more likely to participate again in another innovation effort. Those whose ideas are selected or those whose ideas are not selected. Who do you think? Who do you think would be more willing to engage again?
Well, based on my experience, I would say those who had the ideas selected.
Yeah. They actually found out it were the people who didn't got their ideas selected. And their explanation in the research was they compared it to a match of tennis. And when you lost, you want a rematch to win again.
Okay.
And if you won, you're sort of ahead and you want to stay in that sort of position. So they actually found that, that people whose ideas were selected were less likely to participate again. But if they would participate again, they would participate again with a very good idea. And when the people, whose ideas were not selected, they were more likely to participate, but also most likely again with not so good idea. So how I translate it is actually, so you have to push your motivation to those whose ideas were actually selected in the previous campaign and go by, as you just said, step by, make sure that they participate again because likely they will submit ideas. Those whose ideas were not selected, you might want to give some theory. How can you create better ideas? How can you, validate your idea a little bit more so that when they participate again, they are more enabled to come up with good ideas. But that on its own is, I think, again, a theme that we can talk at least 90 minutes about. And we're not going to do that because we have 4 minutes left today. So just to finalize today's session, the next roundtable is not going to be the last Tuesday of April. I'm sorry, I'm going to break your pattern of a meeting every month. I'm speaking at a conference in Germany. Hype, Henk, you know it. It's the Hype conference. Where I'm also going to talk about sort of enabling people through word trainings or innovation labs, which means that the next event is going to be May 24th. At the moment, I'm thinking to talk a little bit about setting up campaigns, using or my campaign canvas or any tool that is available for that. But I will send out again a little summary, a little survey at the end. Would be really pleased to get your opinions on topics that you would like to address next time. And I know that I'm connected with all three of you. I think last time we also ended with this group of 4. But maybe for those watching the recording, I always like to connect with like-minded people. So my contact details are here. And maybe to make it even simpler, this will actually bring you to my contact page on the website, so that you can book a call or save my contact details. For that, thanks everybody. Henk, Eugene, Florian, thanks for staying until the end.
Nice.
And
Nice talking to you.
Hope seeing you in May again.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.